Welcome back to the One Question Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Steph Garcia Psychos, and I am so fired up to be joined today by Charity Anderson, Assistant AD for Scholar Athlete Success at UC San Diego. Charity, thanks so much for joining me.
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me today.
I am so glad you're with us on this beautiful day in San Diego, on this snow day for me here in the East Coast. You've got the palm tree outside your window. I am very envious. I want to know, as we go through this conversation, how do you make yourself indispensable to your athletic department, to your athletic leader? As we look at your career, you have been with the Tritons for 6 years, including 5 years as the executive assistant to former AD, the great Earl Edwards. Yeah. You have a background in sports psychology, and you have had a lot of experience working directly with the scholar athletes, including as a SAAC advisor. Walk us through your journey to San Diego.
Sure. Thank you for the question. Happy to be here. How do I make myself indispensable to my leader and to my department? That's a great question. Working with Earl Edwards has opened me and my mind to the lengths and the depthness of collegiate athletics. I did want to be a sports psychologist, and I thought, let me go there. Let me help collegiate athletes as their journey through college sports, transitioning out of college sports, and what that looks like. Well, I got into college sports and I realized, you know what? I don't think that's the journey that I want to go on anymore. And I can do it in a different way. So I found how I can still do that in a different way. So during my time as the executive assistant to Earl Edwards, I learned everything. I wanted to be in the control rooms with our video broadcaster. I wanted to be with marketing. I wanted to be with the coaches. I wanted to understand the landscape and the depthness of the Triton Athletics department and how I can use my skill set to go within that department, not to change anything, but enhance or be an assistant to what the mission was as we were transitioning from Division II to Division I. So I was definitely in those meetings. I was listening more than I was speaking. I learned somehow, some way to think ahead. Like looking at the trends across the country, looking at the trends in our conference. How can I think ahead? How can I use my skill sets? And also, how can I listen to my peers about their skill sets, even those that may not fall under their job title, as well as job description? So, example of that is like, this person could be a marketing manager here, but they have some subsets in career development and from a previous position that they had. So how can I hear those small nuances and we can collab together to make things excellent? And I really think that's how I was able to make the change to Division II to Division I, and ultimately help us propel and then put me into the new position that I have currently.
I have so many questions for me just from that intro. I want to take a step back. You said that you had aspirations to be a sports psych. Where did that come from?
Yeah. So a lot of my friends, I have a good set of friends that are professional athletes, and seeing them be professional athletes and transitioning from college sports to, in this instance, the NFL, there was a very big gap. There was a gap in the understanding of, I'll say, civilian life. A lot of things in college sports are handed to them and just done for them. So how to book a flight, how to do your taxes, all that, they can send it to someone. But when you go pro, you can still do that. But there are some subsets that you need to do it yourself as an individual. So seeing that nuances, seeing that understanding. Also, I was in a relationship with a former NFL player, will not name him. And there were some areas that we needed to work on as well. And there's other girlfriends and wives that felt the same way. So I thought like maybe I can come in as a sports psychologist, because I was already doing general psychology, and help our families, help the players, help understand, help navigate through the transitions of populations that you're going to go through during your career. So that's kind of how I got into sports psychology and the impact that I wanted to make there. I wanted to start it early in collegiate athletics so that when they go to pro sports, they could understand the journey when they get there as well.
I just have to pause and say that I was a collegiate athlete. I was a track athlete. And then I also transitioned. I was professional for 10 years. I had no idea what I was doing. And what, when you mentioned how to book a flight, how to, coordinate things, I had no idea what to do. And that is such an unexpected part of that transition. And we talk a lot about the transition from being a collegiate athlete to then being a civilian, like you said, and to just going into the workplace and having to go to an office every day or whatever that looks like for the individual. And it is, I think that we expect collegiate athletes to know how to be a professional athlete, and it is really hard when you don't have the same structure that collegiate athletics provides you, especially if you're in maybe an Olympic sport where you aren't going to go to an NFL team or an NBA team that might still have more, guardrails in place or more guidance for you. When you're kind of winging it like a little track athlete out there, I had no idea how to find the massage therapist, how to book, when to book my travel and those things. And so it is challenging. So very interesting that was an inspiration for you. But from that sports psych side, you didn't want to be an agent. You didn't want to be a coach. You wanted to support that whole person, holistic experience. Talk to me more about that side of it.
Yeah, for sure. I tell my students now, I cannot coach you to be the best basketball, baseball, softball, track athlete. I cannot. But what I can coach you on is how to be the best human that you can be. So how can I figure out and find the values of yourself? How can I help you identify and be able to speak about who you are, speak about your values, speak about yourself confidently, and then add on top that you're a D1, a phenomenal athlete. Because at the end of the day, when sports is away from you, when you're no longer a collegiate athlete, professional athlete, you still have to sit at the end of the night with yourself. So wanting you to look at your legacy now and how you want it to go. So definitely looked at that, and that's the part that that's really important to me for any reason. So yes, sports psych, I can help you mentally go through that. I can help you maybe mentally go through some challenges with your playing skill sets, kind of sort of get to that mental block. However, for me, when it's all gone, when it's not 50,000 people in the stands, when you don't hear your name yelling, you're not getting any more awards, the reward of your life and the legacy that you left is the one that's most important to me. So how can I help you with that? What does that look like for you? How can I pull things out of yourself that you don't know that you have? That's the joy that I have in the work that I get to do for the students, my coaches, to the staff that I work with, some of the faculty that I work with, and our just cross-campus partners that we work with. How can they help pulling that legacy out of our student athletes? So that's kind of my joy right there.
You are in the perfect position for yourself, but I'm curious, how does the executive assistant side weave into that? And again, that was earlier in your career. You spent 5 years doing that. Tell me how these puzzle pieces fit together.
Yeah, if you just do the titles, like how does she take her sports psych and add that and just, she's executive assistant? I don't know. But what I did find out is that sometime when there's a path not made for you, you can make your own path in that. And I think the key part that I was able to put myself in as an executive assistant is in those leadership meetings and those senior leadership meetings, those coaches meetings, listening to the need. So there's a need in something. There's a need on both sides of the spectrum, right? So what's the need? How can I find that need? So I can say that I am a good resourceful person. So if you tell me, hey, we're looking for X, Y, and Z, let me see what's around. I'm also going to use at home. So what on campus is there that we don't need to recreate, redefine, and we can just amplify? That's across campus collaboration. That's us using, at home. That's just promoting sport on our campus. That's promoting what our mission and values are. So how can I here's a need and maybe assess? I don't get it right all the time, but my curiosity has led me to be able to fill in and be kind of that that space where you don't know what to do or where to go. And I stay curious. I am curious about everything. So teach me, show me, let me know. I feel that that just makes me a stronger, more valuable person to everyone that I work with, my family, to my colleagues, just to help the goal. And what the goal is to make have championship seasons and to have great student athlete experiences. That's my North Star. Okay, everything in between of that journey, how can we just amplify that? How can I do that if that's where we're trying to go?
So what I'm hearing is that it's kind of three parts to your puzzle here. You have this incredible sports like background. You have the schooling, you have that specific knowledge. You also seem to have a high level of emotional intelligence, of course, to be able to work for and alongside, senior leaders, the department's leader, and to bring that support in, that empathy, that listening ear. And at the same time, I want to see your closet or your desk, because you must have this great organizational capacity here to be able to, again, coordinate, be creative and resourceful. And so that seems to be kind of some of the pieces of your puzzle here. Um, what advice would you give to someone who wants to be the next executive assistant to an AD, but also who just wants to be the next leader it doesn't have to be the AD in the ADC, but someone who wants to be a senior leader? How can they recreate a version of this puzzle?
Yeah. I think one, for anything that you do, you really need to understand and know for yourself what your skill sets are, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, where your curiosity is. If you know yourself in that capacity, I think that that helps you drive where when you are somewhere, how you can use that skill set there. I think that going through your values too, like a huge value of mine and the number one value of mine is kindness. How can I be kind in the work that I do? How can I serve in a space with kindness? How can I give kindness to others in my work? And how does it show? Because I feel like if I'm kind to someone, then I will receive something from someone. Or if I'm kind to someone in a point of conflict, I can hear them better. I can hear the need that they're asking for because there's a need in conflict. So understanding your values, understanding what's important to you, and being able to stand true and firm in those things for yourself. So when you are maybe subjective to the other side of hindrance, you know, okay, this is my anchor, and I can always swim back to my anchor. I also think that when you're trying or wanting to get into collegiate athletics in an executive role, understanding where you're going, understanding what their mission statement is, what their North Star is. If you align with that, if you believe in their vision, okay, then you can do good work there, hopefully. But sometimes if you may not understand the vision, understand the goals, and you don't have that buy-in, maybe that's not the place for you, and that's okay. Working somewhere should be benefit on both sides of it. Don't just take a job because, hey, I'm just going to do it, whatever. Try it, but also realize, be anchored in who you are so you can do the best work there, be your best self, and it's organic to you. I was say being at UC San Diego, it's easy and it's fun. I don't feel like I'm really trying hard to be something that I'm not. I really feel like I can truly be myself in my workplace, which allows me to do my work not easily, but it makes it passionate. I'm more passionate about my work because I understand and I feel welcomed in the space that I'm in. And I also think that lastly, if you are wanting to get into a leadership role, understanding what leadership is, understanding that there are a lot of points that you might have to manage something, but also leading through change, leading through the chaos, being compassionately curious to those changes that are going on. So, understanding and defining for yourself what leadership is, how do you lead through leadership, because that's like the prefix of it, and how you want to be that. How are you defining it, and are you exemplifying what that looks like to be a leader? So, I think that's what I think.
I want to know, what was that moment for you? We've talked a little bit about establishing values, knowing yourself, and making sure you're not chasing the title, but you're finding the right fit. What was that moment for you when you realized, oh, like maybe you don't have a list of like, these are my 6 values, but when did you feel right and that you
Yeah.
were living your truth?
Um, in the executive assistant role, I think I realized that I was where I needed to be, doing what I needed to do when I was able to have people come to me and ask me my opinion or ask, what did I hear? Because maybe they heard something different, but they asked me for my diverse critical thinking to be added into that conversation. So when I started getting that respect from my colleagues, I think that's when I was like, okay, I have a skill set here that maybe I hear something different, I translate something different, I see things through a different lens. And also through that curiosity, what does that look like for all folks? What does that look like for all populations? What does that look like for all areas? And then I also saw what silos can do in a collegiate department. So, how can we break silos, actually hear, understand the human interaction that we have with each other, strengthen those relationships, and then bring that back into the fold? With stronger relationships, we have stronger partnerships. So I think like scaling back and understanding that I think that I make relationships matter to me. I think I'm a decent people person. I think people want to talk to me and hang out with me. And I value that. I value your time. I value a walk around. Hey, let's go for 10 minutes to get some coffee, check in. I value those moments because when I understand you personally, and professionally, we can do great work together. So when you take the time to know me, I get to know you. I think beautiful things come out of that. So once I saw that, people wanting some time for me, people wanting to hear what I had to say, being invited into the conversations as an executive assistant, that's I was like, yeah, I think I'm in the right place.
You use the word respect. You found that moment when you felt people were respecting you to bring you in. I want to use the word trust. I obviously, though, that was a moment when people trusted you and they wanted you to contribute in an active way. But when did you feel like they, I'm figuring out how to ask this question the right way.
Mhm.
When did you trust them
Mm.
to say that you're going to take my perspective, my recommendations, my feedback, and implement them, in that you're hearing me the way that I am, intending you to
Mhm.
hear this message? Does that question make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, because that's true. Like if they were to trust me, I had to trust them back with what I have to carry it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that I'm going to go back to COVID because I was at UC San Diego for about 8 months before we shut down, right? So I didn't even do a whole life cycle of a season. And yeah, that was that was different. So being home in COVID, still trying to figure out how to go back into play here on a laptop, here using multiple screens and all that, trying to figure out how can we get these students back to what they want to do and what we want them to do. How do we get back championships? And this is on our final year as Division Two. We're missing all of our NCAA championship games, and we're rolling over to D1. And this is our first year now. D1 was in 2020, so craziness. But I think that another strong skill set is my organization skills that you're talking about. And yes, it's a little organizational. It's organizational chaos sometimes, but it's very yes. Um, and I think that that organizational skill set and understanding, and also my relationships, that listening to those meetings I was in, like, hey, but I think Dr. So and so from when we met him in April might be a good person to bring into this conversation. Hey, oh, I think I have some notes from this conversation that we had. What if we brought this person together and we asked them X, Y, and Z? So, like, being able to recall, using my organizational skills and bring things up that maybe folks may not have heard in the moment, but I did. That respect and that understanding that, like, oh, she was like really tuned in. She was really like understanding and thinking, like, hey, let me keep this in the back of my head because we might need this one day. So I think that's when the trust was built on my end, because I was able to show up and show actual content that could help us propel into going back into play. And we did.
As we start to wrap up here, my final big question for you, and again, I'm going to make this as succinct as possible, but I don't think it's going to be. What I'm hearing from you and what is inspiring me personally from your story is this power of being a leader behind the scenes. You don't need to be on the podium and out there rah, but you are making things happen. People are trusting you. You are influential from a little bit behind the curtain. I love that. I think that is where some real power lies personally. And maybe that feels the same for you. So weave both of those things together. The big question of this episode is, how do we make ourselves indispensable to our department, to our leader? And you're doing this not as the, face of the department maybe, but you're doing it quietly but powerfully. Mm-hmm. Do you feel, I have so many questions about this. I want to know, do you ever feel like, oh, I like pressure, like you should be the AV one day. You need to be, a power player in Forbes or SBJ or whatever it is. Or do you feel like, no, I am doing the work I'm called to do, and I'm getting it done, and I'm making real impact, and I can see that impact in the scholar athletes from this step back position.
Yeah. I've been asked if I ever wanted to be an athletic director before, and the answer is no. I've been next to the seat. I've seen what that looks like. I understand what that looks like, and that is not a place that I find myself going. I don't like to use definite, but I'm going to say never. but I do. I honestly find joy being in the background. I find joy seeing other people get excited and use, like, we're able to have a conversation and something comes out of them like, oh my gosh, I didn't think of that. Like, yes, go you go. And I feel like I definitely was placed here to be a servant. So I am doing what I'm called to do. I'm doing what I know that I need to do, and calling and pulling things out of people because someone did it for me. And I was blessed to have that opportunity to understand and recreate and define my voice, who I am, and how I want to serve others. So when I had that aha moment for myself, I knew that this is what I want to do in the world. So I'm definitely perfectly positioned where I am. I want to strive and help our scholar athletes. I want to strive, and I tell my coaches, hey, our athletes have their body team, they have nutrition, they have all this around them, and I'm on your body team. I'm the one that's behind you. Like, how can I make you be a better coach? How can I do this? What does that look like for you? Call me. I got you. So that's definitely where I know that I'm valued and where I want to be. So I think I'm perfectly sitting right now with what I want to do. And yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And when you mentioned that you love that you have a conversation and someone walks away really purposeful and feeling it, I'm walking away from this conversation feeling that way. So mission accomplished for you today. You don't have to talk to anyone else. You did it. No, I'm very inspired, and I think that our listeners will be as well. I think that so often we hear the word leadership and we think we need to be, again, that face behind the podium on the billboard, but clearly there is so much power and real effective change from leading a little quieter, and maybe behind the curtain. And clearly you are affecting big change for the Tritons, and especially, and most importantly, in the lives of the scholar athletes. So Charity Anderson, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the One Question podcast.
All right. Thanks. Go Tritons.
This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.